nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Hello and welcome to the Managing Madrid Podcast. It is Saturday night and I'm your host Kiyan, Sobhani, and we are just hitting record about half an hour or so after Real Madrid beat Sevilla 3-1 at the Santiago Bernabeu in what was a pretty comfortable game, all things considered, with a uncomfortable stretch throughout in the second half. And Real Madrid deserved to win, as they have pretty much every game this season, and are still cruising first place, still undefeated. Fede Valverde still doing things you can't even do in video games, and it feels good to be in this position right now. And joining me tonight is Mehedi Hassan. Got his fly shirt on as usual. I think this is a new one, right?
No, this is the same one that matches with my bedsheet, kind of.
Like, the thing with my wardrobe is, like, you wouldn't be able to tell if I'm wearing the same thing or something new, because my entire wardrobe is just black shirts or white shirts, and like the same one, just like easy. I know what I'm throwing on before I leave the house, before I record a podcast, whatever. So it's tough to say. So you can just get like 10 of those t-shirts or 10 of those dress shirts, and you'll be golden. How you feeling after that win?
I'm feeling well. This was like such a Real Madrid game. It kind of felt like a Champions League night with the atmosphere at the beginning of the game. I think, first of all, like Casillas giving out the Yashin trophy to Courtois, and then Zidane and Modric actually handing Ballon d'Or to Benzema. This has got to be one of the most beautiful things I've seen Real Madrid do. And someone actually tweeted, I think a famous Real Madrid associated account, that Real Madrid doing the right things for the fans. Like, this is ecstasy. This is like as good as it gets. And Zidane was wearing like his three-peat outfit, that like little jumper he wears inside, and then his overcoat. So that brought back memories in itself. It was so beautiful to begin with, the golden tifo and everything for Benzema. Great start for Real Madrid, but then the game kind of spiraled into different places before it got back into into Real Madrid's groove again, and Fede Valverde finished it off pretty comfortably. But yeah, I'm completely happy with the game, happy with the night, and this is a comfortable win. But again, we have talking points to talk about. So all in all, feeling very good.
One of my favorite traditions that we have in this club, apart from just winning more than any other club, is keeping legends around. I think it's great for the culture. It's great for the environment. You know, we always have the honorary member, and it's been kind of passed on. Di Stefano, he passes away. It's Puskás, and then we have Amancio. Although I think I actually got that mixed up. I think it was Di Stefano the whole time. And then we had Gento. We have now Amancio. We always have the legends around. Chendo was always around. Butragueño is an honorary member. All these previous Ballon d'Or winners, whether it's Figo, Ronaldo Nazario, Zinedine Zidane, these guys are always around. And it's just great for the culture. I think it's just awesome to have these people around. You know, Raul coaching Castilla. It's awesome. I think it's great because it's good for the younger players to see, and it's good for that just to be passed down. I have no doubts that when Modric, Kroos are gone, they'll be around. I have no doubts that Sergio Ramos will be back. Casillas obviously is around, and I didn't really mention him, but yeah, it's great, and it's like just cool to see. Like, no other club can just claim that, like, just have this conveyor belt of Ballon d'Or winners coming in and out, handing out awards to the current players. It's an awesome sight to see. Let's break this down. So, off the top, we weren't sure what was going to happen with Benzema because yesterday we knew that he was suffering some discomfort in training. and he was in the squad. We weren't sure if he was going to play. If he was going to play, maybe it's the last 30 minutes or so. Today, he was officially ruled out. Last season, if you told us Benzema was going to be ruled out, we would have probably panicked and started sweating. This season, we have this thing going on where Rodrigo's playing well as a false nine. Fede Valverde is literally a supernova, probably sent from an alien planet years ago, and probably just has alien blood in him. We'll put it that way. And now we're just discovering all this. So it's not as crazy it's not as panic-inducing to lose Benzema, although it's not ideal either. We want to have Benzema on the field. So that happened. So we saw Benzema ruled out, Rodrigo, Fede, Vinicius starting up top, Tchouameni, Modric, Kroos. The back line picks itself. This is what Ancelotti rolls in a big game. And I think it was correct to head into this game treating it like a big game where you don't rest and rotate, because although Sevilla have been brutal this season, you have to respect them in the sense that they have good players on the field, and at any point maybe they can turn their season around. You have to respect it. So Isco starts as their false nine, although I think Lamela was trying to be more of the target than Isco was when those crosses were coming in, and you see this kind of unfold. Sevilla defending on paper was 4-3-3, but I think on defense they were going with a 4-1-4-1 mid-block of sorts. Real Madrid were pressing high in this game. I think it was working. Both teams were giving the ball away out of the back because maybe a combination of bad passing, but also the pitch had issues, although some players suffered more than others. What was your assessment, Mehedi, of the first, let's say, I was going to say 10, 15 minutes when Modric scores after 5 minutes, but you can include that in your analysis as well, the goal. So maybe the first 10, 15, 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. Before I do that, I'll just put a little comment on the Benzema news that he wasn't going to play this game. So I get these awful Real Madrid news right after waking up, because that's the kind of time zone I live in. One day I woke up, okay, Ronaldo is leaving for Juventus. It's official. One day I woke up, okay, Zidane left. One day I woke up, okay, Benzema can't play again. So I get the worst Real Madrid news right after waking up because of the time zone and stuff. But you're right that I have more confidence in this team than before, that they can get through. They can get through and get a win even without Benzema. But obviously having Benzema is drastically more ideal, because you would want to have the best player of the world in your team. Now, to the analysis of the first few minutes of the game, what was very evident that Real Madrid wanted to pin Sevilla back right away. They had 5 men pinning Sevilla's back line as deep as they could, just right away off the block. And I'm sure I don't know if anybody asked Ancelotti or if it was brought up at all in the press conference at all. We'll probably hear from you and later on managingmadrid.com on this. But I kind of felt like that Modric, center forward, kind of came back for this game at certain stretch. Rodrigo was the deeper one, or Vinicius and Fede were basically playing as wingers, and Rodrigo and Modric were playing as the two out-and-out players, the two furthermost players. So, well, it worked this time. Nothing like the Barcelona debacle. But initially, I think Real Madrid's extremely aggressive press was very evident. We do know that Jorge Sampaoli teams themselves like to press as well. So Madrid, I think they just didn't want to give them the chance to press them at all. They took the initiative, and it worked. I think Real Madrid was, at least for the first half an hour of the game, very dominant with their press, very high with their press. The goal came in very early as well. That kind of set the game into motion for a while, for the coming 20-25 minutes. And then it spiraled, as I mentioned, that it spiraled into different phases of domination for both teams. But starting, I think Madrid started to press with 5 men, pinning Sevilla's 5 men back. And that was pretty evident, I think, right from the word go.
Yeah, I think it was because you noted Modric's role. That was interesting. Obviously wasn't, the classical false nine thing, but I believe, and I can't remember now, but I believe he had the most shots at halftime. and he was getting involved, and it was a very fluid kind of midfield and attack. Like Tchouameni himself was popping up close to the top of the box, top of Sevilla's box. He was providing vertical outlets with Modric and combining with Carvajal on that side. Other times he was dropping deep to win the ball. Rodrigo, as a false nine, I think played it pretty well and was floating. He had a good chance in the box. He was combining well with Vini. He was winning the ball. Talking about the press, I think him and Vini both won the ball in key moments. We even pressed Sevilla on a goal kick, which Bonu gave it away. We were making them really uncomfortable. So I think overall the press was pretty good. I also thought our counter press was pretty good too. With Modric, I'm just so impressed at the way he kind of just moves without the ball and just provides an outlet. Because the goal happens early enough that we can break it down. Montiel just malfunctions in that moment. Vinicius takes the ball, and two things stood out. Vinicius has gotten really, really good, and this is not new because last year he was really good at this, of just when he gets in that left flank, he looks across. If he doesn't see anyone, he doesn't blindly hit it across the face of goal. Someone has to be there. And this is, I think, goes back to the whole, famous thing where Benzema was showing him the hand last year. And he's, and ever since really that moment, Vinicius's cutbacks have been very calculated and composed. He cuts in, he waits, makes sure there's something on. He doesn't just hit it into the box blindly. And in that case, two things. One was that it was great composure from Vinicius, and two was a fantastic run from Modric off the ball. Because Modric, he's just making that run, and as much as Montiel got crucified for that goal and his defending overall in the first half, rightfully so, Marcao is also lost in a bunch of these sequences, and he's late to a bunch of challenges, and in that sequence, he's also loses Modric completely on that run. So it's just a great bit of everything. It's interesting, like, there's a ceiling to this team now that is really encouraging, even when you're not playing well. And I'm not saying Real Madrid didn't play well, but it's just that very few teams right now have that gear that Real Madrid can go to. Where, Sevilla have a good spell, they equalize, they have a couple more good chances after they equalize, they get some momentum. But it's just like Vinicius, I think, in the eyes of a lot of people, didn't have a good game. But he comes out with 2 assists. And again, when he doesn't play well, he's a moments player. Could he have done better in certain situations? Of course. Then you have the Fede Valverde goal is just basically a sucker punch. It's like, it must be just like getting a sword through the heart when you experience that goal, because it's just completely demoralized in playing against. And I think the ability the thing with Real Madrid, and that's the thing we've been talking about, we talked about this after the Clásico, they don't need to punch you 100 times. They just need to uppercut you twice. But if they need to, they can punch you 100 times too. They have the ability to generate a bunch of chances. But that they don't is also by design, because Ancelotti, as he said after the Clásico, we don't want to thrash teams, we want to win games. And you can debate that all you want. You can say, okay, well, it'd be nice to thrash some teams too, Carlo. But ultimately, what's happening with Real Madrid this season is that we're scoring goals when we need to score goals. And we're defending when we need to defend. And I think by design, how Ancelotti defines that is that when we're winning, we can just be conservative and make sure we don't concede. And knowing how this team has at least one defensive lapse in them per game, I guess limiting those defensive lapses by being more conservative makes sense. And when you and also the counter-attacking weapons that we have now allows that to happen, right? If our counter-attacking options were Kiyan and Mehedi, we probably wouldn't be relying on that. But our counter-attacking options are Vinicius and Fede Valverde and Rodrigo and Benzema, so we can't. So I think it's just kind of interesting to see this unfold and the evolution of Real Madrid under Carlo Ancelotti. This is where we are right now. We can basically score when we want to, and we just doesn't seem like we always want to. But when we have to, we're pretty devastating in attack if we need to be.
Yes, and this team kind of takes it for granted in a positive way that we're going to win, like, no matter what. Like, score your equalizer, get your equalizer out of the way, get your early goal out of the way. We're going to score when we need to. They take it almost, I don't know if it makes sense saying it like that taking it for granted, but in a positive way, that they have that confidence that they will come back. But I do want to add some things about Vinicius, is that I do know that he has been under some criticism since the derby, that he's not playing well and everything. But we do need to point out that Vinicius is still our leader in goals plus assists this season. And that just doesn't happen by chance. And also, I'm not convinced that he's really bothered by the derby stuff and all that stuff. I don't think that really matters to him. If there is a slight dip, it's natural, and I think he's still playing at a pretty high level. And when this much into the season, you're Real Madrid's highest goals plus assist provider, you're not really playing bad. And today, I tweeted that the chance that he missed, that was almost inexcusable. That was like 2020 Vinny. We don't want to see 2020 Vinny. He has worked so hard to make us forget about 2020 Vinny. 2022 Vinny should finish these chances off. But even then, he came out with 2 assists. So that goes on to show like the kind of player he has become, that even on his off nights, he's scoring a goal, he's providing assists, he's doing all those things. And his defensive contribution is something that is given. Like, no matter how he plays in offense, he's going to give you that defensive support no matter what. And another caveat I want to add to this is Vinicius against Sevilla is kind of different, because if we remember, I think 2 of the worst misses of Vinicius's Real Madrid career is against Sevilla in the 2020-21 season. One of them is when Real Madrid wore that black kit with the dragon kit for some kind of tribute, I think. That game was against Sevilla, and there was this clip that literally the ball was going into Bono's hand and Vinicius missed it like under the goal bar. That was away at the Sanchez Pizjuan. And at Valdebebas, when that was like, I think the 36th or 37th game of the season, we drew against Sevilla, we lost the league title. In that game, there was a miss that Vinicius struck the ball with his right foot. The ball hit his left foot and went out, and Modric, Benzema, and everyone, they just fell down to the ground. Come the next season, Vinicius was really great against Sevilla on both legs. He scored the winner at the Bernabeu. He also, I think, played really well at the Sanchez Pizjuan as well when we came from 2-0 down. And in this game, it was kind of a mixed bag. He provided 2 assists. He missed a really great chance, missed a couple of really great chances. But Vinicius against Sevilla is always interesting since Zidane's last season, because he missed a couple of chances that could have won Real Madrid the title. But then again, he was excellent since then against Sevilla. So that was interesting. Again, we kind of got to see both sides of Vinicius in this game versus Sevilla.
I feel like, you know how Carlo had that famous quote last year where he said, we asked Vinicius to take 1 or 2 touches in front of goal. He could have used that in that sequence where Fede Valverde does that kind of nice flick to him in the box, and he's 1-on-1 with Bonu when he tries to round him. This is a really difficult angle to round Bonu, you know what I mean? Because it's not like there's not that much space between Bonu and the goal, and also the angle that he's trying to do that straight on is a little bit more difficult to do. In that moment, I think the advice of take 1 or 2 touches would have made sense, right? I was also surprised because I was looking at the XG chart. The one on in the 71st minute that is on a very, very tight angle, open net. Remember that one?
Yeah. The one that people thought could have been a penalty.
Which it wasn't, yeah. Because the commentators were like, if you gone down there, like literally there was no contact. It was Sevilla's players running into each other. Anyway, so that one was 0.57 on the XG chart, which is basically on par with Luka Modric's goal. And I guess I was surprised because when I was watching that, it seemed like the angle was really tight. It's not to say that he can't score from that angle, but I think it would have made sense to not try to shoot that. Take a touch if you can, bring it down and look up and try to square it across the face of goal. Because I think I'd have to watch it again, but I think Modric was there if he was able to score. But I have to look at it again. Look, this Vinicius thing, he has this trait that, and not to compare him with Cristiano Ronaldo, who's the greatest player in club history, but he has this trait like Cristiano did, where Cristiano at his peak, it didn't matter if he wasn't having a great game, because he was still cold-blooded in like the 90th minute when he had that chance to do something, and he had that ability to transcend the moment. Vinicius has been that for a while now, where he can have games where he's not playing good. He's showing up with an assist or a goal by the end of it. As you noted, the most goals and assists this season. So the Vinicius performance, again, it's not like he was lights out great, but he was awesome in key moments, and that's what I think needs to be noted about him. I did want to revisit some of the early stuff too in the first half. Tchouameni was a standout to me, especially in a game where, like, you know, it seemed like Carvajal and Militao in particular were having trouble hitting accurate passes out of the back. And now, again, I don't know if it was related to the pitch or the weather, because some players on both teams were having issues with that. Tchouameni was so press resistant. Just didn't matter if he had 2-3 players on him deep. Stayed calm, played the right outlet pass, dribbled out of pressure. His tracking was pretty good. I think the only one place I think you can take issue with was when he took the yellow card. He was pretty late to the challenge and the man. I think, to be fair to him, though, should have been a foul called back earlier on Militao in that same sequence, which would have negated that. But regardless, his movement between the lines were pretty good. He had some magical ball progression sequences alongside Luka Modric. He denied Rakitic in the box in the second half brilliantly. The other one I guess I can nitpick is that he had like a bad pass coming out of the back in the second half, which Lamela actually nearly scores from. This is when Sevilla had their momentum. But I thought he was a standout to me. And then the other one in midfield, and we already kind of talked about Modric, but Kroos, just quietly the most influential player on the ball. He attempted 100 passes, completed 97 of them, which is just a normal day at the office for him. The next person in line with attempted passes was Militao with 63. I have to look at the touches too. Let me see. Yeah, 113 touches for Kroos. Far and away the most of anyone on the field. Just absurd. Yeah, so I don't know if you had any notes on Tchouameni, Kroos, or anyone else.
Yeah, Tchouameni's performance once again was really good, and it's just so refreshing to see that kind of press resistance with someone that's playing with Kroos and Modric. And I mean absolutely no disrespect when I say this to Casemiro, because I freaking love Casemiro. He is like
scored an equalizing goal today in the 94th minute versus Chelsea.
He channeled his inner Real Madrid. And to my Casemiro Tchouameni, parallels, I still believe Tchouameni still has a long way to go to attain Casemiro's defensive intelligence. Tchouameni is great as is, but Casemiro in defense was a completely different beast we're talking about here. But strictly talking about press resistance, I think that has made Real Madrid's floor and ceiling both high, at least in midfield this season, because build-up is so quick, so fluid this time around, because like you can't really press this guy. He's strong. If you're trying to physically press him, he will hold on to the ball and like shove you away. And there was one moment I think Tchouameni channeled his inner Ferland Mendy inside the Real Madrid box and like dribbled and did some cheeky things, and he got out. What the like classic Zinedine Mendy stuff.
Ironically, I think, and then he made the pass to Mendy himself after the pioneer of.
Yeah, as a tribute.
Yeah.
But this was a game where you could see the stuff that Tchouameni was doing, and I think it was great. And he's just such a great addition to this team.
Yeah, you said it, and no disrespect to Casemiro, who is quite frankly the greatest ball winner of this generation. There's no one like him.
Yeah.
Tchouameni does have that ability on the ball. And I think he'll improve defensively too, and I think he's been good defensively. But I think positionally there are moments where he could be a little better. I'm just looking through the Ancelotti quotes. There's nothing really that stands out. He did say Fede has a knock. I'll play Tuesday. I think it's a precaution. I'm fine with him not playing Tuesday. Just bubble wrap him. Whoever else needs to bubble wrap all of them. It's not going to make or break our season on Tuesday. We should also make it that like Papu Gomez should be arrested. Anyone
instantly.
That was just uncalled for at the end there.
On a more serious note, on the Papu Gomez thing, I think I was listening to you and Diego on the Patreon episode of the Churros last night. A lot of things brought in there, but one thing I would like to note that La Liga is still living in like medieval times when it comes to acknowledging certain things, implementing certain things. The tackle that Papu Gomez made on Fede Valverde, he would be banned for 5 games in the Premier League. Even if they check that foul retrospectively, he would be banned for at least 3 to 5 games. Because in the Premier League, they do that. If a foul is that harmful, if it's not called during the game, they look back all the challenges after the game. And if something's that harmful, they ban the player. And because they do that, those kind of things don't happen as much now in the Premier League. Well, of course, like they have their refereeing issues as well. But like this is literally related to player health. He had zero intention to win the ball there. His only intention was to directly, not even like win the ball or not even to hurt the player. It was almost as if he was trying to injure him directly. So this is misconduct to me. This is not like a sportsman conduct what Papu Gomez did. And the game was already over. This guy like just scored a banger against your team. You're just coming in. But yeah, it was completely unacceptable. And there are like so many things La Liga can improve on. And refereeing is definitely one of them. These kind of law implementations is one of them. Like I'm just going to digress just a little bit. Did you catch that thing where a couple of managers, Graham Potter and I forgot who was the other one.
Yeah,
managers were interviewing themselves after the game, and they were like talking about tactics and stuff. So really cool. You see, that's why the Premier League. That's not the only reason, but these are the kind of things that the Premier League does. That's why their marketing is so huge. That's why their market is so huge. But yeah, I'm just frustrated with La Liga for so many things, and I think the Papu Gomez thing just it adds to it.
I don't watch La Liga TV because in Canada, we don't have that, right? We do the ESPN TSN thing, and when I'm in Spain, I'm just either at the games or watching in Spanish. So, but from what I understand, in La Liga TV, I think they have some ex-players or coaches or whatever. And on ESPN they do too as well, to be fair. But but to your point, there is a different level of analysis when you actually bring in coaches. Like I love Mourinho as a coach, but there's nothing I love more than hearing him speak on TV. It's like everyone in the room just shuts the hell up. And they're like, wow, shit, like this guy's on another level. Like we cannot have a dialogue with this guy because he's in a different dimension. Wenger was the same. It's really cool to have these guys on TV for sure. I love Henry. Henry's analysis is always on point. That's a different subject. I'm watching the Papu Gomez thing now. It's pretty bad. He should have, watching it now, because in passing, I was just kind of like going over some stats and it was kind of in the background because it was the end of the game. I'm watching it now. It should be a red card. It's a horrendous challenge because the ball is nowhere near it. He's not even trying to attempt to go for the ball. He's literally just has his knee up. He's going to Fede's thigh area. Luckily, just based on what it looks like just maybe it'll be a bruise or a Charlie horse or something like that, and no ligaments, no ankles, no knees involved. Luckily, but yeah, it's a really bad chance. That stuff, if you let that stuff go, slip. Again, I don't like talking about the referees at all. But as you said, this is actually more of a player health issue, a player safety issue, more than you're getting screwed by the referee or not. This is you got to protect the players, especially the gem, who's, by the way, you can't market your league. This guy is going to be one of your more marketable players now in the league. You got to protect him.
Yeah.
We got to talk about Fede now. Okay, the last game against Barca, Wait, no. What was it? Did we have a game after Barca? Yeah, Elche.
Elche, yeah.
After the Elche game, I said, this guy is a video game. But after this game, I said, you can't even do this stuff in video games. I think he's taking a leap that I didn't even know was in the cards. When we talked about not signing a right winger, this name and that name, none of us in our right minds, no matter how much you love Fede Valverde, we're thinking about Fede Valverde will score how many goals has he scored this season?
I think this was his 8th, I think.
And not just 8 goals, just devastation. There are I'll tell you exactly a handful of players who are playing out of their minds right now. It's him, Haaland, and throw Kevin De Bruyne in there, maybe Jude Bellingham.
Yeah.
Toni Kroos. He's just literally, and I kind of joke, but I think it's not a joke. I think it's a half joke. I think maybe Kroos's tweet about him being top 3 almost underrates him at this point. Obviously, it's obviously it's kind of an exaggeration, but he's just on another level. The point is, none of us thought about him this way when we were talking about signings no. First of all, even if we believe he had a leap, no one thought that he is going to be a right winger. And the funny thing is, at this stage of the game when he scores this goal, he's actually technically a center midfielder because Asensio comes in and they reshift it. Although in that game state, he's basically everything anyway. He's a midfielder, winger. The funny thing is it's almost blurry because when he plays winger, you can see him doing things in midfield. When he plays midfield, you can see him doing things in attack. He's just everywhere. In this game, also, when he was playing on the right wing in the first half, he was dropping deep in central channels, providing vertical outlets for Kroos, coming out of the back. Nowhere near the right wing. And then on other occasions, he's just burning Alex Tellez on that wing and putting these incredible balls into the box. I don't know. It just wasn't on the cards for me. As much as I love Fede Valverde, and you can't tell me it's because you didn't believe in Fede. I always knew. No, you didn't know. Nobody knew this was on the nobody knew this was on the table. This is insane stuff. This is unbelievable. Because he's not just taking a leap. He's literally one of the best players in the world.
Yes, that is 100% true. And I don't think this is an exaggeration at all to say that he's top 3 in the world. If he's not, who is? Who's the midfielder and which team is he playing for who's playing better than Fede Valverde at the moment? But by the way, do you know what happened yesterday? Me, Jose, Rahul, we were kind of joking about it on Twitter. So someone compared Fede Valverde with Ferran Torres yesterday, said that Ferran Torres is basically the Fede Valverde of Barcelona, not so much skillful, but efficient, or something along those lines. I don't remember the exact tweet. So, I
would say let them be happy.
and this kind of ties up, really nicely about, there was a question on the mailbag yesterday when said that how Barcelona people perceive us.
Yeah.
And Lucas actually made a really good point that their perception of us is really low, that low that they think that Ferran Torres is at Fede Valverde's level somehow, or vice versa. So that was really funny to me. But about Fede's leap, yes, this is almost unthinkable. And Probably not so much about his devastation part, because he has always been that explosive player, one of the best line breakers in the team, in the world, if I may say. But when you add this kind of devastating scoring ability to that, at that point he literally becomes a cheat code. He literally becomes a video game character, as you mentioned. So I am so happy, and I'm even more happy because he's a Castilla product. He was originally purchased from Penarol, of course. We were not going to deny that, but he came through the ranks of Castilla. He's the one that stayed. He's the one that learned. And this guy, even like he's so modest. After Kroos said that you were top 3 in the world, he was actually interviewed by Real Madrid TV. And during that interview, they pulled up that tweet did you see the tweet from Kroos? And he was just like so shy and saying that all I do is try to learn from Kroos. So that kind of demeanor, that kind of thought process, that kind of mentality, it's just a Real Madrid legend in the making for me. So I am so happy and so high on Fede right now.
I closed the tab. I don't have it in front of me anymore, but Ancelotti was talking after the game about like how this is the easiest group of players he's ever managed, ever. Because he said, and I think the word he used was they're just so respectful. And like it's again, we've talked about this a lot. I've been watching Real Madrid since 1998. I've never seen a team this unified in my life, ever. Like there's been seasons obviously where we've been spectacular. We've won so many important titles, but there's something about this cohesiveness that just hasn't existed before. Because, and I will say, like in the last, I would say really since Zidane arrived, there's been very few polemicas. Zidane is a coach, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up as a fan of this team, there was always some shit happening. Drama behind the scenes. You don't need to get into it, but it's just a long list year to year. But really, I would say since Zidane arrived, and there were some things that happened there for sure behind the scenes and in the papers and stuff. But it just progressively, I thought the culture just kind of changed. I think that has to do a little bit with everything. With Zidane himself, but also Carlo himself, the way they manage. Florentino, I think, has come a long way and has changed his presidential style. And also, we've been really targeting culture players. I'm not going to say that that's not necessarily true, actually, because we tried to target somebody who was not a culture player this summer. Probably dodged a bullet there now, looking in hindsight. But point is, Ancelotti's point about this is like the easiest team he's ever managed is something that I think it should be noted from the post-game press conference.
A quick comment about that.
Yeah.
That's not really shocking to me that Ancelotti said that, because Ancelotti has had to deal with some of the worst dressing room issues ever. Like when he was at PSG, when he was at Milan the first time, and when he was at Chelsea, he has had to deal with some of the most critical dressing room issues probably in the history of football. So compared to that, when you like consider this team where like Hazard, who doesn't even play, but he's still smiling, playing rock paper scissors with Rudiger in the bench, and everyone is just like a family in this team. So yeah, I'm not surprised that he said that, because compared to this, some of the teams that he has had to manage over the years, those were like brutal. So of course, this is the easiest team to manage.
We didn't talk about the goal that we conceded. What was your assessment and breakdown of that?
Well, I don't know if what's the term placebo effect means. Like your perception of something changes based on something happened, something like that. So my answer to this would have probably been more critical had we not won the game. But I'll be a bit less critical now that we have won the game.
Sure.
I think it has got to do less with any structural issue, and it has got more to do with just switching off. And that's why I said at the beginning of the podcast that this was such a classic Real Madrid game, because switching off defensively without any prior notice, without any reason, is a very Real Madrid thing. And I think that's what we did. The ball carrier Montiel was under absolutely no pressure. There were 3 Real Madrid players around him. I think Vinicius, Kroos, and Mehedi were the 3 who, if they wanted, they could have pressed him a little, but they were just like all 3 of them just ball watching. And by the time he got into a position to release the ball, there wasn't much Alaba or I think it was Carvajal that they could have done. And it was a really good run by Lamela as well. Courtois did what he could. He got a hand to it, but one time, like first touch finish, you can't really expect the goalkeeper to do much when the finish is pretty good. To me, yeah. So I would say this wasn't really a structural issue that Sevilla somehow broke Real Madrid's structure. It's just that we switched off in that moment. We had 3 players who, either of those 3, if they wanted, they probably could have given some trouble to Montiel, but they did not, and that's why we conceded.
I saw some criticism of Courtois. Should have saved that. And to that, I would say, wash your mouth. This guy.
Yeah,
if anyone is allowed to make one mistake,
yeah,
it's him.
And if this is in the Champions League final, he'll say this.
Yeah. There's criticism for Vinicius for trying to dummy. I'm not sure who was on the flank. Obviously, he doesn't pull that off, and obviously becomes extra problematic because now Sevilla are in a chance to rebound. And you mentioned Montiel's pass. He had a better second half than he did in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Once Vinicius loses it there, I think you have to just also give some credit to Lamela for doing something that I think was not too preventable from that moment on when Montiel has the ball. And that is that he's neither Militao nor Alaba nor Ferland Mendy's man. It's Carvajal's. And the great part of Lamela in that play is that he makes that run diagonally across, like horizontally, and Carvajal just can't catch him in that situation. It's just a great run. I think you have to tip your hat off to Lamela in that situation. The finish wasn't great because I think Courtois probably saves that 9 times out of 10, but that's a big moment. We can also just fast forward to the subs here. So, 64th minute, Camavinga comes in for Tchouameni. Then you have 76th minute was the more game-changing one. Carvajal and Modric come out. So does Ferland Mendy. It's triple sub. Lucas Vazquez comes in. Rudiger comes in. Rudiger comes in. And the third one was Asensio.
Asensio, yeah.
Yeah. Asensio and Vazquez, 2 subs combined for the goal. The go-ahead goal. I thought it was brilliant from Asensio because the turn was great. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but to me, my stupid brain thought, well, he's going to play that out wide. I forget who was out wide in that situation. But he disguises it and plays it vertically to Vinicius instead, which is brilliant because Vinicius is now on a break. And Vinicius just makes the right decision to play it off to Vazquez, who I believe scores it with his first touch. So, yeah. Huge sub.
Yes, and about Asensio, when he's motivated and he's not really worried about contracts and stuff like that, and he's only thinking about the team, playing for the team, he's an unbelievable substitution to have when he's in this kind of form. He's going through a really good patch, scored in the last game, really important contribution for the go-ahead goal in this game. And kudos to him where it's due. About the other substitutions, I have a point to add about Carvajal. So I don't think this was necessarily one of Carvajal's better games since his comeback to form. This was a rough one. And I don't necessarily say that for his defensive part. I say that for his attacking part. So Carvajal's drop off from like 2016-17 Carvajal. The drop off in offense has been much drastic than probably the drop off in defense. I would even say there is not much drop off in defense, but in offense, he used to have this amazing technique of an outswinging cross that he used to like deliver on a regular basis to Bale and Ronaldo, and they would just score tons of goals like that. But right now, he doesn't. I don't think he has that technique anymore, or has that skill anymore, or he has enough confidence in that skill anymore. So right now, all his crosses are in-swinging crosses, which are not really effective most of the times. But
except
Lucas
for that
Vazquez,
one to Rodrigo against Manchester
except
City.
for the one against Manchester City. That was probably the last good one, and there was another against another to Benzema that got disallowed against Elche. That was a good cross as well, that I can just remember up from the top of my head. But yeah, his probably his last really breathtaking cross was against Manchester City. But in that regard, I was a little disappointed with Carvajal. But then again, he's kind of playing in a stretch. Vazquez hasn't given him much rest in the last few games. I think in the next game, Vazquez should start and rest Carvajal to bring him fresh, to freshen him up again. That's that. And I don't think Rudiger really needed to do much since he came on. He was good, I guess. I didn't really notice what he did because he didn't really need to do anything drastic, I believe, since he came on. Camavinga was solid. He again, by the time he came in, Sevilla have already put 10 men behind the ball, so he didn't really get much line breaking to do. It was just screening and trying to find the right man on top of Sevilla's box, which I think he did fairly well in the time that he had. So all in all, another Carlo Ancelotti masterstroke with the substitutions that changed the game like that, and we bagged all three.
You said something that I wanted to touch on. I lost my train of thought.
Asensio, Carvajal.
Yeah, it was Carvajal. The thing with Carvajal too is I still think his crossing is really good, and it's super underrated. It always has been. But I think your point about the in-swinging one or the out-swinging one is that part of the reason I think he also could do that in the past is he could get to the byline easier and beat players off the dribble. He can't really do that anymore, and hasn't been able to for quite some time. As you said, defensively, he's been pretty monstrous for a long time now, even when out of form. Offensively, his crossing still is pretty good, but he just can't dribble past players the way he used to. And I think that's part of the issue. I think we already I don't really have much else to say on the third goal, again, because we've already discussed it. It was super low on the XG chart. It was basically a flamethrower slingshot. Anything else to add?
What was your thoughts on Rodrigo in this game?
I liked his performance in that. I think it was, and Ancelotti was saying after the game that it was similar to Benzema, that it's not a quote-unquote defined role. It's a very free role. I thought he broke lines pretty well. He had the right intention. He won the ball well with the press. His dribbling was good. What was off for him was his shooting. He had that one in the first half where he dribbles really well, gets it on an angle and tries to shoot a far post, but shoots it way over. But again, well-intentioned. He had another one in the second half where he had this like almost low drop-esque dribble, gets past his man in a tight space. And that was like a period of the game where Sevilla had equalized, and they had so many numbers, and it was they had like just a million players in the back line. Good dribbling, but his shooting was off. I liked his performance. Wasn't that effective, but I liked his free roaming role. I thought he actually tried to replicate what Benzema brought to the table, but obviously just couldn't score.
Yeah, I think the Laudrup chance that you're mentioning, that got me a little disappointed because the Rodrigo I have seen so far, I expect him to at least challenge the goalkeeper from that kind of a position.
Yeah.
After he has done the hard part, he's gotten past his man, and there was like a lot of space in front of him at that point. He probably could have even taken an extra touch there. But these guys have been working so hard, playing so well. I think there is enough slack to cut them. It's okay, I guess.
Yeah, especially when the team is winning and scoring. Sometimes, This is classic. I mean, look, this is kind of like the Raptors. You know the Raptors. Some days it's OG, some days it's Pascal, some days it's Scotty, some days it's Fred. You know, different players may step up in different games while other players may not be at the peak of their powers. It's okay. As long as the team gets a W and, you know, the rest you just kind of you patch it together. I'm gonna do that thing right now where I basically skim through my notes, but while I do that, why don't you tell me if there's anything else we miss on your end?
I'm just checking my notes. No, we have pretty much talked about everything. The La Liga bylaws, the refereeing, that was my last point, but we already covered that already, so there's nothing more to add to that. We covered Carvajal's crossing. And yeah, I think we covered everything. I do want to remind you that you have to mention the Patreons at the end.
Yeah, patron shoutouts. We're going to do that right now. And I'm just going to, there's nothing that really glares outstanding that we missed. There's a couple things, but they're kind of like, you know, they're kind of boring stuff that we don't need to get into, especially when my kids are going to barge down my office door anytime. One of them try. I don't know if did you hear him on the podcast? I muted the microphone. My 2-year-old came in. He asked me why I have headphones on. All right. So, okay. So, you guys know the drill. One of the things we do here is that if you pledge $10 or more on patreon.com/Managing Madrid, not only do you get access to our entire back catalog, all of our bonus podcasts, everything that every patron gets access to, including the Champions League post-game shows. So this Tuesday, we're going to do a post-game show live on Zoom. If you want to access it live, you want to access it after the fact, you have to be a patron over patreon.com/Managing Madrid. But if you pledge $10 or more, not only do you get guaranteed responses to your questions, but you also get a specific shout out on the podcast. So if you like the work we do, you want to support high quality journalism, you want to stay away from the sensationalized side of things, you want to be a part of a Real Madrid family, then go over to patreon.com/Managing Madrid. So shout out to these $10 plus patrons: Brandon Alvarez, Willie Reed, Will Sousa, Way Paring, Wamik Jamal, Tobias Arroyo Botcher, Tariq Goktas, Talib Salhab, Tahmid Kalam, Sushank Damala, Sujai Wani, Sumanshu Singh, Sheikh Atiri, Shamil Shabazz Sharapov, Sergio Arispe, Santos Solorzano, Samuli Justin, Samir Z, Said Mahad, Sai Mohan, Sasi Kumar, Rodrigo Balmaceda, Rishi D, Phoenix, Peter Powell, Paulo Fierro, Patrick Udaya Fadi, Oscar Barrera, Nico Laxo, Nicolas Zapatero Zubiare, Nicholas Moeller, MJ Diego, Michael Zinberg, Marin Myrtle, Nick Ribeiro, Mowgli, Matthew Atkins, Martin Ridman, Magnus Lex, Logan Stahl, Leon Stavronakis, Kunal Tilakar, Crystal Glass, Kevin Rivera, Jose Cruz, John Fernandez, Jeff Thurston, Jason Fitz, Ian Marley, Graham Gerard, Gary Kohut, Frederick Rantakiro, Frederick Sundros, Faisal Hamdan, S.A. Davisito, Eloy Enriquez, Edward Sossman, Daniel Williams, Con P, Christian Toft, Christian Acosta, Charles Williams, Brendan Powers, Brandon Stevens, Ashik Bashar, Armand Gashi, Armando L, Antons Rudenko, Anirudh Singh, Ananya Kumar, Alex Steiberg, Al, Azaz Hussein, Adrian Rios, Adar Zalikovic, Adam Dorsey, Bella Chow, Varun, Ramtin Makrour, Fabian Moreno, and Daniel Smith. Legends. The list keeps growing. Appreciate you all. Mehedi, thanks for your time, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll chat soon. Take care, and Hala Madrid.